They say family secrets are meant to stay buried, but what if the person you trusted the most was the one doing the unthinkable? This is not about judgment. It's about truth, temptation, and the moment I realized I didn't know my own sister at all. I've always believed that my sister, Nora, was the strong one. The one who did everything right. The one everyone admired. She had a perfect marriage, or so I thought. Her husband, David, adored her, and together they looked like something out of a family magazine. I envied her stability sometimes, even though I loved my single, quiet life. That night, she invited me over for a small gathering at their new lake house. David was supposed to be away on a business trip, so it was just her, a few friends, and me. When I arrived, the place smelled like red wine and grilled steak. Music was playing softly, laughter filled the room, and Nora, always the hostess, looked stunning in a silky red dress. But there was something different about her. Her eyes, usually so calm and collected, carried a glow I hadn't seen before. It wasn't happiness, it was hunger. As the night went on, I noticed how often she glanced at one of the guests, Ethan. He was David's close friend. Tall, charming, with a dangerous smirk that made every woman in the room adjust her hair. At first, I thought it was innocent teasing. But as the wine flowed and the music got slower, I could feel something brewing beneath their polite laughter. Then, it happened. Around midnight, most guests left. I stayed behind to help clean up. Nora and Ethan said they'd grab more wine from the cellar. Minutes passed. Then 15. My gut twisted. Something didn't feel right. I walked down the narrow stairs leading to the basement, the sound of my heels echoing in the quiet. What I saw next made my knees weaken. The cellar door was slightly open. Inside, between racks of wine bottles and dim yellow light, my sister was pressed against the wall. Ethan's hands were on her waist, her fingers tangled in his hair. The air between them was thick, hungry, desperate. I froze. My voice caught in my throat. She didn't even notice me. The way she kissed him, it wasn't just a kiss. It was years of bottled emotion, breaking free. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, unable to breathe. I couldn't process it. My sister, my role model, was betraying the man who worshipped her. When she finally came back upstairs, her lipstick was smudged, and her hair a little undone. I didn't say a word. She smiled at me like nothing had happened. But something inside me shifted that night. I didn't just see my sister anymore. I saw a stranger wearing her face. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, the image replayed, the way Ethan's hands explored her, the quiet moans, the look of surrender on her face. It wasn't something I was supposed to see, but I did. And now, I couldn't unsee it. The next morning, Nora called me like nothing had happened. She sounded cheerful, even radiant, asking if I got home safely and if I wanted to join her for brunch later that week. Her voice was steady, calm. I almost doubted what I saw, almost. When I arrived at her place that weekend, David was back from his trip. He welcomed me with his usual warmth, hugging me like a brother would. The guilt twisted inside me so sharply I could barely meet his eyes. Nora looked effortlessly composed beside him, serving him pancakes, brushing crumbs off his shirt like a loving wife. I kept wondering, how could she switch roles so easily? How could someone carry such a heavy secret and still smile so convincingly? Halfway through breakfast, Nora caught my gaze across the table. For a split second, I saw it, the flicker of recognition in her eyes. She knew. She knew I'd seen. But instead of fear, there was something else there, defiance. A silent plea that said, "Don't ruin this for me." After David left for work, Nora finally spoke. "I know what you saw," she said softly, her voice trembling just enough to sound human. I stayed silent. I didn't trust my words. She sat across from me, hands clasped, eyes glassy. I didn't plan for it to happen. I swear I didn't. But Ethan, he makes me feel alive again. I love David, I do. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling seen. Her confession hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to shame her for what she did. But deep down, I understood. Because I knew that kind of loneliness, the kind that eats you quietly while you smile through dinners and family photos. She continued, tears forming now. David is kind. He's loyal. But he doesn't look at me like a woman anymore. He looks at me like a piece of furniture that's always been there. Ethan looks at me like I matter. Like I still have fire left in me. I sat there, torn between judgment and empathy. The truth was, I could see her pain. I could feel it. And that made me hate myself even more, because part of me almost justified it. Then she leaned closer. Please, don't tell anyone. Not David. Not Mom. No one. I just need you to keep this between us. I nodded, but the weight of that promise settled in my chest like a stone. From that day, her secret became my burden. Weeks passed. Whenever we had family gatherings, I had to pretend. I had to laugh beside her and David, knowing that her smile hid a world of deceit. I watched her sneak glances at her phone, typing messages she thought no one noticed. I heard her excuses, the late-night work meetings, the sudden girls' trips. I watched it all unfold in silence. But the hardest part wasn't keeping her secret, it was watching how good she became at lying. At first, her guilt was visible. But over time, she grew bolder. Careless, even. She began meeting Ethan more often, sometimes in broad daylight. I caught glimpses, his car parked a few blocks away, her perfume stronger than usual when she came home. And yet, David never suspected a thing. He trusted her completely. Every time I looked at him, my heart sank deeper. Because I knew, if this truth ever came out, it wouldn't just destroy their marriage. It would destroy me too. That night, as I lay in bed replaying her words, I realized something frightening. The line between loyalty and guilt had blurred. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure whose side I was really on. Keeping my sister's secret was eating me alive. Every time I looked at David, his gentle smile, the way he adored her, I felt like a silent accomplice in her betrayal. It was no longer just her affair, it was our shared sin. Weeks turned into months, and Nora's behavior became impossible to ignore. She was glowing, radiant in a way that didn't come from happiness at home. Her clothes changed, her makeup softened, and her phone became an extension of her hand. I wanted to believe it was harmless, that maybe she'd stopped seeing Ethan. But deep down, I knew better. Then one Saturday afternoon, my worst suspicion confirmed itself. We were supposed to have lunch together at a new cafe in town. I arrived early, expecting her usual punctual self. But she was late, 30 minutes, then an hour. I called her. No answer. A strange pull made me get into my car and drive toward her neighborhood. Halfway there, I spotted her car parked outside a quiet art studio on the edge of town. I slowed down, heart pounding, as I saw her step out. She wasn't alone. Ethan was with her. He opened the door for her like a gentleman, his hand resting on the small of her back, the same hand that once gripped her waist in that wine cellar. I parked a little farther away, hidden behind a row of trees. I told myself I wasn't spying, I just needed proof, clarity, something. But as I sat there watching them laugh and walk into the studio hand in hand, I realized I was doing exactly what I swore I wouldn't do. After almost an hour, they came out again, both smiling, carefree, like two people with nothing to lose. Nora's laughter echoed faintly in the afternoon breeze, and that's when my heart cracked, not from betrayal, but from heartbreak. I missed that version of her. The carefree, alive woman who used to dream out loud. But this wasn't that Nora anymore. This was someone else, someone who had built her freedom on a lie. That night, she called me, sounding lighter than she had in years. I just needed a little escape today, she said. You understand that, right? I wanted to scream, no, I don't. I wanted to ask her how she could risk everything for a few moments of stolen passion. He chuckled weakly, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. After that call, I sat in silence, trembling. The truth was closing in. A few days later, things escalated. Nora came to my apartment, visibly shaken. Her lipstick was smudged, her hair undone. "He almost caught us," she whispered. "Who?" I asked, though I already knew. "David. He came home early. Ethan had to sneak out through the back. I thought I was going to die. I felt my pulse race. Nora, you have to stop this. It's not just dangerous, it's cruel. You're playing with fire." She looked at me with tired eyes. "You think I don't know that? But I can't just turn it off. It's the only thing that makes me feel alive anymore." That was the moment I realized how deep she'd fallen. It wasn't about Ethan anymore, it was about the addiction to feeling desired, seen, wanted. She wasn't just cheating on her husband, she was cheating on her own emptiness. Weeks went by, and I started to notice strange changes around her house. David became more withdrawn, quieter. He stopped smiling as much. He didn't say it, but I knew he suspected something. Then one evening, Nora called me in tears. "He found a message," she sobbed. "A stupid message I forgot to delete." My heart stopped. "What kind of message?" "A text from Ethan." It wasn't explicit, but it was enough to make him question. I rushed to her house immediately. She was pacing the living room, mascara streaked down her face. David wasn't home yet. She looked like a ghost of herself, nervous, trembling, cornered. "Nora," I said firmly, "this has to end now. Before you destroy everything." She turned toward me, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. It already is destroyed. Even if I stop, the guilt won't disappear. The damage is done." I grabbed her shoulders. "Then at least don't let him see the wreckage." For a long time, she just stood there, crying quietly. "Do you think he'll ever forgive me if he finds out?" I hesitated, then told her the truth she wasn't ready to hear. "No. Not this kind of betrayal." That night, she promised to end things with Ethan for good. She deleted his number, blocked him, cried herself to sleep. For the first time, I thought maybe there was hope. But the next morning, I saw his car parked a few blocks from her street. And that's when I knew, she wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. The truth wasn't just leaking anymore. It was flooding. But I didn't. I stayed silent, letting her voice wash over me. Later that week, David called me unexpectedly. He wanted advice on surprising Nora for their anniversary. "She's been distant lately," he said softly. "I think she's just tired. Maybe I'll take her away for a few days, remind her how much I love her." My chest tightened. He had no idea. None. The man was planning a romantic getaway for a woman who was already emotionally gone. That night, guilt finally spilled over. I went to Nora's house, unannounced. She was alone, curled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. When she saw me, her smile faltered. "You followed me, didn't you?" she said quietly. I didn't answer. She didn't need one. Her eyes filled with something between shame and anger. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Ethan isn't just some fling. He makes me feel alive. I spent years pretending to be perfect. Now, for once, I feel something real." I stared at her, tears burning in my eyes. "But at what cost, Nora? You're breaking a man who would die for you. And you're dragging me down with your secret." She turned away, voice trembling. "Don't judge me until you've felt invisible in your own marriage." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush me. That night, as I drove home, I realized something terrifying: this wasn't going to end quietly. My sister was living two lives, and sooner or later, both were going to collide. And when they did, I wasn't sure who would survive the wreckage. The problem with secrets is that they never stay buried forever. No matter how carefully you hide them, they leave traces, tiny cracks that slowly start to show. For months, I carried my sister's secret like a ticking bomb. Every time we had a family gathering, I could feel it pulsing beneath the surface. The way David looked at her with such admiration, it was painful to watch. She'd smile back, pretend everything was fine, and I'd sit there pretending not to know. But the pretending started to take its toll. One afternoon, David called me again. His voice was tense, uncertain. "Has Nora seemed off to you lately?" he asked. My stomach flipped. "Off? What do you mean?" He sighed. "I don't know. She's distracted. Keeps going out more, says she's with friends but never takes pictures anymore. She changed her perfume, her clothes, it's like she's someone else." My mouth went dry. I forced a laugh, trying to sound casual. Maybe she's just trying something new. You know, midlife glow up. And I was standing in the middle of it, unable to save anyone, not her, not David, not even myself. It's strange how silence can scream louder than words. After that night, the air around my sister's home felt heavy, charged with unspoken tension. David had stopped asking questions, but I could feel it, he knew something wasn't right. He wasn't ready to accuse her, but the doubt had already taken root. And Nora, she was fading. The sparkle that once lit her up whenever she mentioned Ethan was gone. What replaced it was fear, constant, suffocating fear. Every sound, every text notification made her flinch. She had become a prisoner of her own choices. Then one afternoon, it happened. I was visiting her, helping with laundry, when her phone buzzed on the counter. Ethan's name flashed across the screen. I froze. She looked at me, eyes wide, and whispered, "Don't answer it." Before I could even respond, the front door opened. David stepped in earlier than usual, carrying a small bouquet of white lilies, her favorite. The silence that followed was unbearable. The phone buzzed again, still on the counter, still showing Ethan's name. David's eyes followed mine. Then his gaze fell on the screen. Time stopped. Nora lunged for the phone, fumbling as she tried to hide it, but it was too late. David's voice was quiet, almost too calm. "Who's Ethan?" She froze. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, like it was trying to escape. For a moment, I thought she would confess. I thought maybe this was it, the truth finally spilling out. But instead, she smiled weakly and said, "He's just a client from work." David nodded slowly, not convinced. His eyes lingered on her, studying every twitch, every flicker of emotion. Then he turned and walked away, muttering something about a forgotten meeting. The door closed softly behind him. Nora collapsed to the floor, sobbing. I knelt beside her, holding her trembling hands. "This is it, isn't it?" I whispered. She looked up at me with tear-streaked cheeks. "No. He doesn't believe me. I can feel it. He's going to find out." For the first time, I saw true panic in her eyes, not over losing Ethan, but over losing the man who had built his whole world around her. The next few days were a blur. She tried to call Ethan, but he had vanished. No replies, no calls back. Just silence. It was like the universe was finally punishing her in the cruelest way possible, by taking away the one thing she thought she wanted. When David finally spoke to her again, it was only to say he needed space. He didn't accuse. He didn't yell. He just disconnected. And somehow, that hurt her more than if he had shouted. Weeks passed. The affair ended quietly, but the damage lingered like a shadow that refused to leave. Nora stopped wearing bright colors. She stopped smiling. The fire that once consumed her now left ashes behind. One evening, as we sat together in her kitchen, she whispered, "You know what the worst part is?" I looked at her, waiting. "It's not the guilt. It's knowing he still doesn't know the full truth. I see him every day, trying to love me through a lie. And I can't even tell him he's right." Her words hit me harder than anything. Because that was the real punishment, not being caught, but living with the weight of what she'd done, every single day. To this day, David never found out. Their marriage survived, at least on the surface. They still take photos, host dinners, post anniversary messages online. But I can see it, the distance, the emptiness between smiles. And me? I'm still trapped in the middle of their silence. The witness to a secret that no one was ever supposed to see. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear her words echoing in my head. Don't judge me until you've felt invisible. And I wonder, maybe that's how infidelity begins. Not in lust, but in loneliness. This story is a fictionalized narration inspired by real emotional experiences. It's meant for mature audiences who appreciate true-life relationship stories filled with passion, pain, and moral reflection. If this story made you feel something, heartbreak, anger, or even understanding, then don't leave without subscribing. Every week, we bring you real-life inspired confessions, forbidden emotions, and stories that hit where the heart hides its secrets. Broken Heart, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and never miss the next confession that could change how you see love forever.